many years ago that pretentious friend who only listens to podcasts on vinyl article I did. My Mark Maron reference was it's just so much more satisfying to skip the first 15 minutes by hand. God damn, I used to be so much funnier than I am now. Dude, I had like a 5-year stretch. It's so funny because like I had a couple of things that feel like when bands have a couple hits on their first album and then they never have a hit again. They have a career, which is sweet, but they never reach that, like, that's how I felt, where I was like year 2 in comedy. I had my most far reaching success. And then it just became shrunk into a very small audience, but then it kept me, employed forever. Whenever I hear bands talk about music stuff now, it's so fun because I never really, as a musician, I only understood what local musicians went through. And now I kind of have this parallel to be like, oh, I can really appreciate what some of these musicians must have gone through at certain points in their career.
My guest today is Eric Navarro. Eric and I go way back. We worked together at our college radio station, sorting through piles and piles and piles and piles of CDs that the radio station would receive in the mail. While we were sorting through the onslaught, he mentioned that he was trying to put together a band, an indie hip-hop pop-punk band, to be pedantic about it, and asked me to play bass. We had fun. Most people, thought we sucked. I just thought we were ahead of our time. Don't scour the internet trying to find recordings. It's not important. What is important is that a few years after our time in college, Eric switched over to stand-up comedy and contributing articles to that crusty internet rag, The Hard Times. If you're not familiar, it is like The Onion, but for alternative music culture. In addition to writing content, he also currently serves as an editor, along with some other contributors to The Hard Times, including Brendan Kelly of the Lawrence Arms and other projects. Eric created punk rock Seinfeld, on which Kelly voices a crust punk version of Kramer, because of course, Kramer is a crust punk. Eric's opening track selection is a mouthful. He chose Tell That Mick, He Just Made My List of Things to Do Today, which starts off Fall Out Boy's 2003 debut record, Take This to Your Grave. Thanks for tuning in. Let's make a mixtape. So, Eric, why did you pick this song?
All right. Well, the parameters was this is the first song on a playlist, first song on an album. And first and foremost, I believe that you need something to have high energy if you're going to kick off a playlist. Oh, an album. Yeah, I kind of interchangeably use that. But, well, first off, I need energy, period, in whatever music I listen to.
For those of you who are listening right now, I have Eric on video. We're doing a Zoom chat. And Eric is pacing around his room. Just to emphasize the amount of energy that Eric needs and thrives off of.
No, it is very true. I used to think certain genres just sucked, and it turns out I was like, no, it's just I just didn't like certain tempos. So I understand where like my personal music taste can differ from a lot of people, which is why. So for me, the opening track on an album, I wanted to have a ton of energy just to get going. And as far as like this song in particular, not only does it kick off an album in a perfect way, but it is first song on what I think is the greatest pop punk album of all time. Up until this song, all the kind of pop punk influence that was pretty widespread before it kind of went into this song. If you listen to, there's parts of it where you can go, oh, I know, you can kind of pinpoint at least the time frame of where these different sections kind of came from. It's almost like you threw a bunch of tropes together and they just did their Fall Out Boy version of all these pop punk tropes and did all the kind of, in my opinion, the best type of moments that you can have in a pop punk song. They nail in each part of this. It's kind of like the best pop punk song on the best pop punk album by the best pop punk band. So the fact that it opens that album is it's just, and for me, someone who likes a lot of energy in music, that absolutely nails it for me. So that was my like initial like just surface or not surface, but like gut reaction of like this song when you set that prompt.
Full transparency, this isn't a genre that I typically listen to more often than not.
Yeah, I spared you the emo rap.
You spared me the emo rap, yeah.
Yep.
But I did. So of course, I went back and I listened, and listening to it, the record came out in 2003. Man, it's 20 years old,
Yeah.
which is insane to think about right now. But going back and listening, hearing, yeah, those pieces that they pulled from, but also hearing, it sounds like the beginnings of what you think of what comes out of pop punk and emo for the next decade plus. It seems like it represents, this seems very foundational. Of course, I mean, I feel like Fall Out Boy probably was a very foundational band in this era.
Yeah, so you're nailing it. So here's the part you don't know,
Okay.
which is just from not being involved in that. Yeah, just not knowing that genre.
Yeah.
Your instincts are absolutely right. But here's the piece that's missing is that Fall Out Boy, much like this song, is also an amalgamation of a lot of bands that they were inspired by. Because they actually came from, most of the band came from like, their singer was a drummer for a ska band, and everybody else was in like hardcore band.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the fact that they all got together kind of this was almost like their, all right, we are the talented members of our bands, let's make a band and actually try to make it. It was a coordinated effort to write that genre and kind of expand on it. There is an album that came out in 2001, Tell All Your Friends by Taking Back Sunday, was a massive influence on this record. But it's purely like emo, the Taking Back Sunday record. There's a band called New Found Glory, and at the time they were called A New Found Glory, and they put out an album, I forget the exact year, I think 99, something about sparkling and fading, and I don't know, all that glitters ain't gold, or I don't know, I forget what it's called.
Just a little post-production note, the album is Nothing Gold Can Stay, and it was released in 1999.
That album, it sounds like this Fall Out Boy album, Take This to Your Grave, sounds like a mix between Tell All Your Friends by Taking Back Sunday and the A New Found Glory album from like 1999. And if you listen to those albums kind of back to back, you can really hear like, oh, and also you got to mix in the Get Up Kids, who were considered kind of the godfathers of the emo pop punk 2000s hybrid, and their singer hates that. He has apologized to the world for inspiring like Fall Out Boy and stuff. It's a very funny thing when you're just like, I hate that I inspired a massive influential genre of music. Damn it, I'm sorry. Old man Matt Pryor, love him.
When I asked you to pick a song, I anticipated either a Fall Out Boy song or one of Kanye West's early.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I would have. No, that's not. But yeah, anything off My Dark Beautiful Twisted Fantasy is pretty interesting.
I know it's one of your favorites.
Oh yeah, that intro's pretty good. Nicki Minaj, great for a feature.
And now look where he is.
Has anything been happening with him? I haven't really been paying attention.
Yeah, I stopped paying attention a long time ago. I did not. I'm not keeping up with the Wests.
No, I was keeping up with the West only when he was Twitter beefing with Pete Davidson and kind of Michael Che. The Michael Che stuff was amazing. That was amazing. I forget exactly how the post went. He posted something like a text from Pete Davidson, like really like respectfully being like, hey, let's be adults about this. And he posted it with a comment that was like, look at this dickhead or something like that. I was like, damn, Kanye got his ass. Oh, man. Yeah, so I could have picked a Kanye song. You're right. Through the Punk Rock Seinfeld page on Instagram, I follow somebody who's been, or not visiting, but just living in Japan, I guess, for the last year or two. And all the posts are just video after video of local alternative music, but mostly punk adjacent genres, like in Japan. And just constant, like they have this thriving local scene. It's so cool for just like punk bands, and watching the crowds. Like, it's so wild to see crowds discovering for themselves how to best enjoy a punk show in the same way that I did when I was a teenager in Maryland. It's crazy to see this through the internet now. I don't know. It's like watching like music kind of grow exponentially and how, I don't know, genres mix and match. And I don't know, it's just pretty crazy right now what's happening with music. It's exciting.
Yeah, I love how, everywhere you go. I mean, this is kind of one of the main thesis statements behind what I do here and on Global Garage is, the world is massive. We have a lot of differences as human beings, but you go to a small music scene.
It's the same. It's all the same.
It's so cool being able to go to a completely different country, find a small club show, and people are engaging with it in the same exact way.
That's what I was showing my dad says hi, by the way. Me and Ryan are friends, for anyone listening.
Is he here?
No. I saw him earlier and told him I was doing this.
Oh, okay. Well, say hi to your father for me.
I will. But I was telling him, I was showing him the newest punk rock Seinfeld today, and I was saying how it's because we have so many episodes that are just about going to a local show, and like that experience. And I was saying how it's like that's why Seinfeld works perfect for it, because the experience is universal. That's what we're going for. What are all the universal experiences that you have growing up in the punk scene and everything that happens because of it? And then who best to discuss it but the Seinfeld gang? Dude, local scene culture is so much more interesting than punk culture.
Yeah.
Just the idea, just because that's such a shared experience that you get anywhere. That's so cool. Oh, dude, so to pull it, I know we always go off track, but pull it back to the song. Did you read the lyrics by any chance?
I did not. Should I pull them up?
Okay, yeah, pull them up, and I want to hear. You know what? Let's get a live reaction of Ryan reading Fall Out Boy lyrics. How about you read the lyrics and react, and I'll give you context after to explain how exactly this happened. Lyrically, this song is very interesting.
I really hope I don't get hate mail for this episode if I react one way or another.
Oh no! It's you'll see exactly what I mean. There's nothing controversial here. You'll get it exactly once you see it.
Light that smoke, that one for giving up on me.
Yeah, it's a pretty emo line, pretty standard. Yeah.
And one just 'cause they'll kill you sooner than my expectations. It's so melodramatic.
Yeah, I know. They're really going for it.
To my favorite liar, to my favorite scar, to my favorite scar.
Favorite scar.
I could have died with you. I hope you choke on those words that kiss that bottle. Confess. So bury me in memory. That was me doing the in parentheses. That was terrible. Now ask yourself, out of the insides, said I loved you, but I lied.
All right, here we go. You ready? You ready for the hook? Here's where it takes a turn.
Jumping into the pre-chorus.
Pre-chorus, my bad.
Let's play the according to genius.com on
fair.
The lyrics pulled up. It has been different.
No, this is the pre-chorus. They're right.
Let's play this game called When You Catch Fire, I Wouldn't Piss You Out. I wouldn't
piss to put you out.
I wouldn't piss to put you out. That is
for a pop punk song in 2003. Yeah.
It's pretty brutal.
Pretty brutal. That's a good word. We're going to come back to that. Keep going.
Okay. Stop burning bridges and drive off of them so I can forget about you. How, that's, quite insensitive to tell someone to go kill themselves.
Yeah. Because you know why? Because you broke up with me. That's the charge, by the way.
I mean, that's the thing with this era of emo and pop punk. I mean, that's why there's a whole band dedicated to making fun of it called Masked Intruder, which takes that trope and just extends it so far.
Jared Alonge with both the Sunrise Skater Kids gets some credit as well.
Yeah.
Satirical pop punk.
And so the chorus, so bury me in memory, his smile's your rope, so wrap it tight around your throat.
You're dating a new guy, and it's going to be the literal death of you. All right, verse 2. Let's see where we go from there.
Oh my God. On the drive home, joke about the kid you used to see, his jealousy. Breaking hearts has never looked so cool. As when you wrap your car around a tree, your makeup looks so great next to his teeth. His teeth.
Yeah. So
I already feel like I'm going to get hate mail.
The same. It's just the same lyrics over and over, I think, after that.
Yeah.
But
The outro is "So bury me in memory around your throat."
yeah. So here's what happened. So, I said the two of the members were in like hardcore bands.
Yeah.
And so the singer was originally just going to be a drummer, and then they found out he could sing really well. And they're like, "Oh, holy shit, like get up there." And so when he and the bassist, who would later just be the lyricist, but the two of them were writing the lyrics for this album together. And so what their bassist told the singer, he was like, "Okay, when you write your lyrics, it's got to be brutal, man. Brutal." And you said it, dude. It's got to be brutal. Now, here's the thing. The guy he was saying it to was like a 15-year-old kid who liked metal and ska. And he didn't know that the bassist meant brutal honesty. Like, do the Taking Back Sunday thing. Be brutally honest, even if it's ugly. It's like Pinkerton, like Weezer Pinkerton style. Like, it can make you look bad, but brutal honesty. But he misunderstood and thought like brutal death metal. And so he wrote an emo, like brutal death metal version of an emo lyric, which is why that's so interesting. I think that's so interesting. It's just, it was kind of a miscommunication.
Yeah. If I had no context of it and I read that, I would not think it was a very upbeat emo pop punk song.
Yeah, no, not at all. But it's and there's so many lyrics on that album that are exactly that, brutal. What I thought was kind of cool is like that makes it kind of a unique song. But on top of that, even the lyrics that are like, the lyrics that are the lyrics that are not as insane, and also the insane lyrics are all done really well. Like those are some pretty poetic ways to state everything that they're stating, and also from just a storytelling perspective, it's all very concise, and they're conveying multiple pieces of multiple moving pieces of information within the same lyric. And it's like, oh, that's you're telling me a story that progresses the entire time. You also learn while you're learning your own tastes. You learn how to differentiate between your own, what you find good, and what you kind of can find. If you can find core concepts of what quote unquote makes a good song or makes a good album or whatever, you can identify it and then see the difference between the two, which I think is really important if you're critiquing or having an opinion on music. Sure. And that's why, like with Hard Times, in like spring 2023, Hard Times had to start incorporating more like not like comedy but non-satire, and part of that was a lot of like rankings, like this band, this album, or this songs in this genre, all these kind of like rankings that are just, it's a way to just make jokes and have fun talking about bands and songs and albums we like. And so in doing so, I started to realize, oh, actually, it doesn't really matter what these rankings are, but it does matter to people. And so it's like, even though I shouldn't be taken seriously as a music critic, I'm still writing things that are a critique or opinion on specific things in music. And it's like, oh, okay, I should be responsible with this. I should be responsible about what I say and kind of like really like think about how it all comes across. And so it's like, just because I like something or don't like something, I really have to think about like, how is everybody in this fan base going to feel about this? How are a lot of the musicians end up seeing these things? And I know because they comment on them. And so it's like, how would the person who wrote this song feel? Like, yeah. And you don't want it to change your opinion, but you at least want to like think about it in a way to be responsible, to not just go, my personal opinion is what's right here.
Oh, I guess what's the mix of Hard Times readership? I mean, I assume that you have a lot of people in bands that are active. I mean, I feel like that resonates really, the content that you're putting out resonates really well with bands, but also music fans in general. Do you have a lot of more broad readership?
Yeah, well, so in specifically starting in 2020, the readership expanded a lot. And so it was at the point where like, I think we kind of hit a certain, I'm trying to think of the word for it, but whatever, we hit a certain point where every person who's into who identifies as alternative culture, punk, metalhead, whatever you want to, call it, is they all know about us, and the people who like us, and it's pretty much that's. And so what we noticed is there are far more one, younger people who are getting into alternative
Mm.
culture as a concept. Period. They're 13 and they're
Mm.
like, "Oh, what's this punk? The Ramones? Oh, okay." And then at some point they're like, "Oh, what's the comedy version of punk? Oh, Hard Times. Oh, okay." We're getting a lot of that. But we also get a ton of more, especially since 2020, because we posted about lots of stuff we'd post about anyway, like class struggle and like police brutality and stuff, and also just politics and whatnot, because it was an election year, because there was a lot of politics stuff happening in the election year. But all that stuff was like stuff we do anyway, but that's what people wanted to read about and hear about, especially during COVID,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
internet use skyrocketed.
Mm-hmm.
And internet culture became way more like widespread, because it's not just us, it's everyone. There are way more people who are on the internet, on social media and all these websites, finding out about all these things, who it's not that they were on the internet and didn't know about them. It was that they just weren't as active on the internet until COVID happened. And so
Yeah.
the combination of us getting a lot more of a spotlight on us, because the subject matter we were covering lined up with the subject matter that everyone else was talking about, combined with way more just regular people who, most alt culture people are way more to be likely to, be on the internet than normies, for lack of a better term. And so you get kind of that perfect storm happens, and we get a ton of people who have no affiliation with alternative culture who follow us. But it still is the vast majority alt culture people, but like, so it has expanded to that. But it's like we put these like rankings out, and people are just the goal is just people should just be excited, like, oh cool, some more content about a thing I like. But 300 comments of, "You ranked my second favorite first and my first favorite second. I'll kill you and your mom." It's like, Jesus Christ. And after hundreds of comments of that, you're like, I guess these rankings matter to people a lot. And so I try to be mindful. But I do like to throw in every ranking. I like to throw in one of my personal opinions that I know does not jive with the fan base. And just feel like, not to be like a troll, but like kind of to be a troll, but mostly because I'm like, this is what I actually feel. But this is what I actually feel. I'm not like pretending to like something. I'm going to tell you a thing that I believe that you might not believe, but I'll give you one. I'll give you one of those. Everything else is fun and funny. Ha ha ha. Feel good. Here's the one where you should go listen to this album again because you were wrong to doubt it. I find myself saying that a lot while I write these things.
What is really interesting, I mean, talking about the ratings, it is really interesting seeing Pitchfork's been doing a series lately where they're revisiting some of the rankings from classic albums that have stood the test of time. I think some records cool. That they are admitting that they, maybe missed the mark on with the review. So it's kind of interesting to see this series of them reflecting on their initial reaction to a record and how it's held up now, which is kind of I don't know. It's cool to see that.
Yeah, it's interesting. That's like, music media is very fun, but I think you have to find the people you like to read. That's what I've really learned.
Yeah, for sure.
Because if you go into, honestly, any kind of field of like critique, and I learned this about film critique, it took me forever to find, because I always thought I was like, oh God, I hate movie critics. And then I found the ones I like, and I'm like, oh no, this is great. Yeah. This enhances the experience. I think it's the same with music stuff.
Oh, for sure. Music is so subjective. Not everyone has the same tastes, but so naturally a critic who favors one style versus another is going to have an opinion that you either align with or you don't align with, and finding out who those people are that have very similar tastes or musical outlooks to you is handy to either fuel new recommendations or discoveries or avoidance or the like.
No, that makes sense. One thing that I really do like about the way that we're doing the rankings at Hard Times is that it's no one's volunteering for stuff they don't like. No one's going, ooh, unless the headline is supposed to be a joke about it, you're not liking them, obviously. No one's going like, oh, I want to rank this band who I hate. The goal is to have people be happy with them. And it's very funny when people get so mad in the comments. And this wasn't an example of that, but it was just to put it on a scale. So I did a ranking of the band Less Than Jake. And my one controversial thing, which I didn't think would be that controversial, was ranking their album Losing Streak third as opposed to second. A Hello Rock You was number one, and that was not going to change. I know you don't care. Yes, I know it's not your world. So it mattered to people. One of the comments in it was just the name of the album I put third, basically implying I think this one should have been number one, and have some like fire emojis or whatever. And they had a blue check mark. So I looked, and it was the drummer of the band A Day to Remember. That dude weighed in to tell me I was wrong.
I mean, to that point, that's a metric of success.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think he read it. I think he just was like, "Oh, I like this album." But how cool is that? That this dude in one of the biggest bands in the world happened to see that in his feed and goes, "Hey, I just want to shout out my support for an album I like by this ska band." And I was like, "Oh, that's so cool." It's that kind of stuff where you're just like, "Oh yeah, there's a responsibility here. You have to try. You can't just."
You'll never please everyone, but I think part of it's also opening up that conversation and giving people a chance to say that, hey, this is my favorite, or this band that you've probably never heard of is really good. This is my favorite, in hopes that someone reading the comments, doing an anger scroll, is going to think that they should check that out, and then maybe they do. It's giving people a voice and a platform, I think, for the conversation, which I guess can be very much abused.
But it's also fun, yeah. Even when it's chaotic, or you because you do get really good stuff in there too. But it's all fun. Every bit of it is just, I don't know. That's what's so funny. It's like creators always talk about, like, I don't know, pick a term for people who do whatever, for not real celebrities. They always talk about, like, don't read the comments, dude. Don't read the comments. Never read the comments. I read every single comment. They're awesome. All I've done my whole life is read internet forums. This is just an internet forum about something I made when I post, if it's mine, or something one of my friends made, if it's somebody else's. This is great. This is fun. This is really fun. The whole spectrum of it.
Thank you so much for chatting with me. It's always a pleasure to see what tangents we go on.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's so much fun. No, dude, I always love talking this stuff. And I think it's really cool what you're doing. Good luck with the podcast.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to like, subscribe, and rate the show on your preferred podcast provider. As I'm told, it helps the algorithm gods. You can find a full transcript of the show at letsmixtape.com, where you can also find a link to the Spotify and YouTube playlist for Season 1. Scotty Sandwich from The Sandwich Shop composed our theme music. Join me next week when I talk with French musician Nick Poltman.